All right, everybody, it's finally time to discuss this elephant in the room. According to World Wildlife Fund, elephants, once common throughout Africa and Asia, were severely depleted during the 20th century, and this is largely due to the massive ivory trade. While some populations are now stable and growing, poaching, conflict, and habitat destruction continue to threaten this wonderful species. Elephants are the largest land mammal on Earth, weighing 4 to 6 tons. They have the largest brain out of any land mammal as well. There are two subspecies of elephant, Asian and African, with African elephants being considerably larger than their Asian relatives. They're usually distinguished by their massive body, huge ears, and long trunk, which has many uses. Some of these include picking up objects, utilizing it as a horn to trumpet warnings, greeting other elephants, and even using it as a hose for drinking water or bathing. All African elephants, including females, have tusks. Elephants are either left or right tusked, and the one they use more is usually smaller because of wear and tear. Like lemurs, the species is part of a matriarchal society, and they are organized into complex social structures of females and calves, while males tend to live in isolation. A single calf is born to a female once every 4 to 5 years after a gestation period of 22 months. Calves tend to stay with their mothers for years, and other females in the group help to tend to them. Elephants are gorgeous, peaceful, and intelligent creatures, so one would assume that those who live amongst them would protect them, but unfortunately that's just not the case. Under the Endangered Species Act, they are clearly listed as endangered. Some of the biggest threats to elephants include habitat loss and climate change. Humans' increasing need for expansion is encroaching on the remaining habitats left for our wildlife. The habitats that still remain are facing hotter and drier conditions due to climate change, making for poor foraging conditions and putting calves at risk for death. Another huge risk for elephants is the ivory trade. Despite a ban on the international trade, African elephants are still being poached in large numbers. Tens of thousands of elephants are being killed every year for their ivory tusks. The ivory is often carved into ornaments and jewelry, and China is the biggest consumer market for such products. Between 2010 and 2014, the Chinese price of ivory has tripled, driving illicit poaching through the roof. If the elephants are to survive, the demand for ivory must be drastically reduced. As of 2011, the world is losing more elephants than the population can reproduce, threatening the future of African elephants across the continent. According to WorldElephantDay.org, elephants are a keystone species, and that means that they create and maintain the ecosystems in which they live and make it possible for a myriad of plant and animal species to live in those environments as well. The loss of elephants gravely affects many species that depend on those elephant-maintained ecosystems and causes major habitat chaos and a weakening to the structure and diversity of nature itself. To lose the elephant is to lose an environmental caretaker and an animal from which we have much to learn. At the turn of the 20th century, there were a few million African elephants and about 100,000 Asian elephants. But today, there are an estimated 450,000 to 700,000 African elephants and between 35,000 to 40,000 wild Asian elephants. The good news is we can save elephants. And the way to do that is by implementing stronger protection policies for wild elephants at both local and international levels of government, stronger enforcement and legislative measures against the poaching and illegal trade of ivory, better management of natural elephant habitats, better education about the vital role of the elephant in its ecosystems, more viable alternative economic opportunities for those whose livelihoods depend on the elephants, improved treatment of captive elephants, and, where appropriate, reintroduction of captive elephants into protected sanctuaries that allow a natural replenishing of endangered populations. These are just some of the goals that numerous elephant conservation organizations are focusing on around the world to prevent the extinction of wild elephants and the destruction of their habitat, while also improving the quality of life for those elephants that happen to be in captivity. Elephants are running out of space and time. Before we know it, they'll be gone unless we collectively stop the senseless poaching and consumer demand for ivory and allocate protected natural habitat in countries where elephants and other wildlife can thrive both now and in the future. Because without elephants, just what kind of world would we live in? If you're looking for a way to support the elephant right now, head over to SaveTheElephants.org. Support these creatures in style by purchasing one of our handmade elephant bracelets. All links will be in the description below. I leave you today with a quote by the amazing Dr. Jane Goodall, who said, "I have spent hours and hours watching elephants and come to understand what emotional creatures they are. It's not just a species facing extinction, it's massive individual suffering." Thank you for your time and your attention, and we'll see you on the wild side.